first thing I noticed, the engines sound different. Because there's only one engine running. It had a much deeper sound.
Abate follows standard emergency procedures. He starts the APU, or Auxiliary Power Unit. It's a generator that can supply extra electrical power when one engine is lost. Most of the passengers don't know how serious the situation is. But Captain Abate knows the plane is in grave danger.
I lost the engine at 39,000 feet. I cannot keep on flying at 39,000 feet with engine failure.
With thrust from only one engine, the aircraft immediately slows down. At a lower speed, the wings don't provide as much lift. Abate must descend to an altitude where the air is thicker. Denser air means the wings can provide enough lift to keep the aircraft flying level. The plane continues to descend. Even with only one engine, and despite the drop in altitude, the tiny Comoros Islands are still within reach of the crippled airliner. There is an airport at the capital, Moroni. If he can convince the hijackers, Abate could land there.
It's gone down 1,000.
When the engine stops, it descends. It will descend whether you like it or not.
Alone in the cockpit, Captain Abate takes a dangerous chance. He explains the situation to everyone on board.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot. We have run out of fuel, and we are losing an engine at this time. We're going to make a crash landing.
When the pilot came onto the public address system and said that he had no alternative but to crash land, that is when it actually dawned on us and we realized that this was a life and death situation.
Captain Abate also makes a desperate call for help.
We have already lost one of the engines.
He wants the passengers to overpower the hijackers so he can land the plane.
I ask all passengers to react to the hijackers. Thank you.
Captain Abate knows the call for help is a huge risk.
Even though I was expecting some kind of movement in the cabin, but I had to do my job. I was doing what I had to do. Keep the airplane in control, fly it.
While Captain Abate waits for action, the passengers are more confused than ever.
He said, react against the hijackers, which is an odd phraseology. Nobody reacted. I think part of it was the way he said it was not sort of a normal way in English that you would ask someone to take on the hijackers. But he also was trying to do it enough so they wouldn't notice what he was saying.
At least one of the passengers does understand. As a news cameraman, Mo Amin has never shied away from a challenge. Amin makes his way to the economy section in the rear of the plane.
Here is a man who had spent 20 or 30 years in some of the most difficult and dangerous war zones of the world, who'd been beaten up, who'd been shot at, who'd been jailed. He was a kind of alpha male, if you know what I mean. He could talk anybody into anything.
He made it like he was going to the bathroom, and then he came back and he started talking to people who were 3 or 4 seats ahead of me. And from his gestures and actions, he was trying to get us to stand up against the hijackers.
With your help, we can take them. There's only 3 of them. Come on. Come on.
Not knowing what would happen, not knowing what these people were capable of doing. And of course, the fact that they had indicated that they would blow up the plane if anybody tried anything.
Always have to measure, am I going to make the situation better or am I going to make it worse? Who's ready to take the chance that your precipitous action against the hijacker might not cause him to set that explosive device off and take the life of everybody on board the plane?
In the end, the passengers choose not to act. Captain Abate is still alone against the hijackers. They control in a vain attempt to keep the plane in the air.
It's descending.
Don't worry. I'm not the one who's doing that.
Inadvertently, one of the hijackers disconnects the autopilot. The plane swerves wildly.
I'm not applying any motion. The aircraft is doing it by itself.
He was trying to fly the airplane. He was trying to disconnect the autopilots. All sorts of things.
It's all over. We will drop in the ocean.
31?
Abate makes another attempt to explain the desperate situation to the hijackers. Perhaps they will finally allow him to land at the nearby airport.
This is zero. And this is coming to zero.
I prayed to God. I wish I wasn't in this situation. Now I'm in it, but help me to save these people.
Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down and fasten your seatbelts. Do not panic. Please
I was starting to say, oh, I love you, dear. It's been a good ride. My wife is sort of unsentimental, psychiatric nurse. And she tells me, get up, stand up, get our bag down from the overhead, pull out your extra glasses, put them in your pocket, and get some food from me. And I want this, this, and this food. She had carefully picked things that wouldn't make her thirsty. She said, there's not going to be any meal service once we hit the water.
Finally, the plane runs out of fuel.
So you're killing everyone? Stanislaw, sit down. From now on, you can't do anything to me. What? From now on, you can do nothing to me.
The other engine stopped, and it sort of went quiet. Then it started to get hot within the cabin. The light started to flicker, and gradually it went out.
That's it. Both engines are out. That's it. Is this what you wanted?
This $40 million aircraft has become a 100-ton glider. The plane is out of fuel, and Abate is out of options. A crash landing in the sea is all but inevitable.
Both engines are out. That's it. Is this what you wanted?
Almost 4 hours after takeoff, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 has finally run out of fuel. Hijackers have taken over the plane and have forced the captain to fly over the ocean. The loss of engine power starts rippling through the plane. As well as driving the jet through the skies, the engines supply power to most of the electrical and hydraulic systems. Without the engines, the computer screens, automatic pilot, and many other functions of the plane stop working. Although the engines are now useless, a low-tech backup system allows the pilot to retain some control. The ram air turbine, or RAT, is the last line of defense when all the engines fail. A small trapdoor automatically opens, and the turbine, a small propeller, pops out. The rushing air turns the propeller like a windmill, generating just enough electrical power for basic flight instruments and controls, including airspeed.
Since it was power off, that means there was no electrical or hydraulic power. The controls were heavy.
The turbine doesn't provide enough power for Abate to operate the flaps, which would help slow the plane down for landing. Wherever he lands, Captain Abate will have to do so at a dangerously high speed.
Power of landing, power of ditching, nobody's trained in the world. Flying over the water, you need accurate instruments. I didn't have any of the instruments.
Without engines, a large passenger jet can glide 18.5 kilometers for every 1,000 meters of altitude it loses. At 6,400 meters, the Ethiopian Airlines plane can travel for nearly 120 kilometers before it hits the ground.
One of the things that the captain's got to worry about now is with both engines shut down, the airplane's going to go down. It's just a matter of where, and that's going to be controlled by the pilot flying.
It's an extremely dangerous situation few pilots in the world have ever faced. In 1983, another 767 pilot found himself in a similar predicament. Air Canada Flight 143 ran out of fuel and landed on an abandoned Air Force base, sustaining only minor damage. In the right circumstances, a safe landing without power is possible.